I've clicked the button. View on Facebook. Oh, hell yeah. I'm now viewing things on Facebook. And then you know what? It didn't view me on Facebook when I clicked that button. Let's try it on the old LinkedIn-aroo. View on LinkedIn. Okay, I can see me on Facebook. That's good. And then live show special guest. Okay, well, whatever. I think we're close. Oh, I got to click join, don't I? And then this event will start soon, but Facebook or LinkedIn sets like a nice long delay to make sure I don't get into any trouble. They're keeping an eye on me. They know this guy's trouble. So I think that'll go live pretty quickly. So good morning, y'all. Welcome to Friday's live show. Big ups to any of the people that end up viewing us live, because someone was reflecting, they're like, there's no way I have. Adam, that's ridiculous for you to even think for a moment I have an hour and a half available to me on a Friday morning. What a charmed existence you must lead, which they're correct. But so for anyone that does manage to come by live, that's awesome. Glad to have you with us. And for anyone checking out the stream after the fact, that's also awesome. I'm Adam Quiney. As you can tell from my headline, I'm a guy who thinks transformation is neat. It's neat. I am a fan. And today I got my good friend Seth Drugatz, Seth Rogan Drugatz. That's not a nickname that he has, but maybe his friends will start calling him that if I do my work right. He's going to come on and we're just going to talk about kind of his arc. He's been in this field of coaching for a couple of years. He's spent the last year with us in the Forge. He's declared to come on board with us for the leadership team, the coming year in front of us. And so I wanted to bring him on and just have him share a little bit about his journey, because I think that's the most interesting part about any transformational story is definitely not the program or like who the coach was being or anything like that, but more like what was happening for us internally, what was unfolding as we were going through. I got some notes over here, which I'm noticing super sparing. Probably should have prepared better. But that's not really the nature of this work either. My fear wants me to prepare heavily. My fear wants me to have 6 pages of notes. But what transformational work is about doing is supporting us to become more and more fully expressed as our most natural, innate sense of self, and to do so, to learn how to do so in a way that calibrates and meets the world where it's at. And part of that journey is learning all I need to do is show up and be. And yeah, there's sometimes some preparation, not usually for these shows, but can I trust that I can be with whatever is happening and navigate that as it goes and have things come out like in a positive way? And when we deepen in that work, what's really cool is we don't have to prepare as much, and then we can make jokes about it like I'm doing right now. So, let's see what I can share with you to start us off. The first thing I'm going to share is a little piece of music I've been enjoying, little album by a group called, what are these guys called? Polo and Pan. They're a couple of Parisian composers. I'm going to put this is a link to one of their albums in the Facebook chat, and then I'm going to put one of these in the LinkedIn comments. You might enjoy these. You might enjoy this music if you like music. I find their music is kind of eclectic. It's a little bit dreamy. It's kind of a nice blend when I'm working. There's a little bit of lyrics. Sometimes those lyrics are in French, so it doesn't pull my attention quite the same as if they were in English. So they're a cool group. If you're looking for some new music, that might be someone worth checking out. Let's see here. So we are 2 months, or really just a month out before we launch the next year of the Forge, which is the program Bay, myself, and a couple of other people on our leadership team put on in service of creating transformational coaches and leaders. And the heart and spirit of that work is you can't learn about transformation. You have to undergo it. There's no substitute for that. You can read books, and then you can go to 58 different webinars, and you can get the latest ChatGPT architect, whatever the AI is, and have it point out to you like the blind spots that you might be able to see. And there is a awareness that can generate all of those things. And there is a complete comfort in all of those things, which is that you get to have that experience of having your blind spots reflected, blah, 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 all within the comfort of your own like universe. You don't have to practice with anyone watching. You don't have to have your blind spot exposed in the moment. And knowing that you have a blind spot in a particular area will never be the same as having it put in front of you, front and center in the moment. And that's what the Forge is about, is supporting you to get clear on what you really want in your life, start to move towards it, and then to inevitably what's going to happen is the things that get in your way in life are going to show up. And what's going to show up along with whatever's getting in the way is like your blind spots, the stuff you can't see that has this friction get created and that has you get stopped. And we support you to come to terms with that, to start to see that blind spot for what it is. You get to resist it like all of us do. That's definitely not, I know you're saying that I can be a jerk, and I know I can do that when I'm in traffic, but that's different because that guy's really a jerk and he's got it coming, and I'm just giving him a taste of his own, you know, all of our justifications. And all of that is in the way of coming to this real acceptance of, oh, I too can be a jerk, or I too can be selfish, or I too, and then really sort of being within the moment and softening until we can kind of find a way to come to an acceptance of that and stop resisting it, stop trying to keep it at arm's length. And once we do that, suddenly all of these new possibilities become available because the solution set, the sort of options that we were going for didn't have baked into them and make sure I never look this way. You know, so it'd be like, I'm committed to make $1 million provided and then there's this proviso of things that we don't even realize we have laid out that are like, but I'm not going to do it this way, and this isn't available, and I would never do that, and not that. And so we're helping you shift that, make those lines a little more malleable so you can start to see new possibilities. So as we go into that, we're at the scary stage right now where it's like people, I'm in a lot of conversation. Who's going to come on board? Is this program going to run? You know, all of those sort of questions. And it's very tempting for me to build this massive marketing arm because it would really alleviate like my fears about allowing things to unfold as they do. But instead, the work that we're really committed to right now is see what's going to show up, make the offerings, create the content we're going to create, do our best to stand for transformation, like as a practice rather than something you learn about, and then make the offer to the world and see how the world responds. Next week, we're heading out to do some work with a client. So we'll be working with a client over the course of about a week, which I'm really excited about. We get to, you know, I get to do this work with this amazing human being over the course of a year, but then once a year, I get to go down and really support his team to kind of create what's next for them over the coming year. And what's really neat when you work with someone at the level that we do, and then you get to go and be with them in their native habitat, is I get to see all of these subtleties that he might not necessarily even know to bring into our conversations. And so it's a really rich way to kind of get to continue deepening our support for someone. So I'm super excited about that. I think we're going to be able to get like a roller coaster ride in there too. Hopefully we're going to get out to a roller coaster park. So that's going to be pretty good. And let me just check and see if there's anything else for me to distinguish or share at the top of this call. Oh yeah, the other thing that's there for me right now is I began writing this like kind of a manual for people that come to work with us in the Forge, because there's a couple things that are happening as we're training people ontologically. The first is we're helping them see this whole new layer of like, they're developing a new way of perceiving the world, which is to distinguish how someone's being from what they're doing. So if I come up to you and I go, have a nice day, that's one flavor of it. Or I can be like, have a nice day. Or it might be much subtler than that. I might just be like, have a nice day. And in each of those three ways I've said that, that's the German three. Each of those three ways that I've said that, you can pick up subtleties, and you might just have a feeling like that guy's in a bad mood, or it might even just like rub against you the wrong way when someone says, have a nice day or whatever. And we don't distinguish that, meaning we don't pull it out and really look at like, what's the actual thing going on here? Why do I feel this way? What's causing me to feel this way? What's at play? And so when we're training people ontologically, we're developing in them this ability to pull apart these different things from the content of what's happening, have a nice day, to along with all the circumstances. Oh, it was busy, blah, 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 blah. From underneath, who is someone being, free of any of our judgment about how they're being? Oh, that person was being rushed. Or, oh, that person was being aggressive. Or that person was being like, fuck you. Or whatever it happens to be. And so as you're learning to see through this new lens, it can be really overwhelming because you're trying to apply all of the skills and tools and techniques that we're training you in, as well as what you've always known how to do. Like you yourself have an understanding of how to get from point A to point B. And what we're doing is, as we start to distinguish this thing called being, you're going to start to notice and realize, oh, what previously looked like a ship, like just moving from point A here to point B here, now I can see there's actually a mountain I have to traverse. It's not just show up and do the thing. I have to do the thing, but I have to change my story about myself as I'm doing the thing from something like I'm an annoyance and a bother to people to like, I actually have genuine value to provide to them. So we're doing a lot of this work under the surface. And I sat down to kind of like, all right, I'm going to write like a 4-page document to sort of put all these disparate parts together so people can kind of get an understanding of them and have like an easy, all right, got it. Here's that, there's that. That's how they all fit together. And so 40 pages later, I'm still working on this thing. And so I'm not sure if it's like a book or maybe an ebook or a booklet or something like that. But I've really enjoyed it. And one of the things that I find a lot of people with a lot of brilliance like to do is we like to do stuff, but we also like to understand them. Yes, this leads to this. And yes, my essence has a survival mechanism, whatever the words are. But why? Why did that lead to that? Why do I feel compelled to do that? And there's just like a part of my fullest expression is pulling this stuff apart and understanding it and then being able to convey that to other people. And I want to finish this soliloquy at the top of our call here before we bring Seth on with a something that someone said to me when I was researching for my first book. So my first book is in my opinion, not a particularly, kind of an angry book called Too Smart to Know Better. And I was researching the quality of brilliance. And so I'd reach out to people and I'd say like, who's the smartest person you know? Would you put me in touch with them so that I can interview them for the book I'm doing? And part of the way I fueled that book was really allow my arrogance and my righteous indignation about how the world was, how people were, like, you idiots, why aren't you leading better? Like, I think a phase a lot of coaches frankly need to go through this, or certainly that I did, this point where I was like, I'm better. I have it figured out, you dumb. Why don't you just listen to me? And so I wrote a lot of the book. I allowed that arrogance out. And then I'd work with my coach to kind of soften it, but I can still feel it when I go back and read it. I'm like, ooh, I was kind of angry in that book. But anyhow, that's more of a testimonial. Do not buy that book. Buy Who Do You Think You Are? That's the book that came after that. But as I was doing this research, I'd ask people, one of the questions was, what do you think brilliant people would most benefit from learning or being coached on? And this one woman I was talking to who I really enjoyed her, and she had a fair degree of humility in her. And she paused and she said, bringing people along with them. And I thought, boy, isn't that just such a nugget for me? Like, from brilliance, often what we don't like to show our work because it makes us feel dumb. A lot of brilliant people, we can be a bit of a lazy thinker. We're like, well, that's just the answer. You should just know it. Why do I have to walk you to that point? You should just know it. Morons, all of the arrogance that you're probably well familiar with if you have friends that are brilliant or maybe are brilliant yourself, all of that. And there's a humility and a grace to being willing to recognize, like, people asking me how I got there is actually a gift to me, because it forces me to slow down and recognize maybe my thinking is not as clear as I think it is. And so I'm really passionate about supporting this ability in us to learn how to bring people along for the ride, put the dots a little closer together so they can connect them. And when someone brilliant can do that, they move from being someone who creates more followers, someone who creates people that think, boy, you're brilliant, I'm going to follow you as a leader, to creating more leaders. People that instead of thinking, wow, Adam's brilliant, through being in partnership with me, start to realize, wow, I'm brilliant. And that's the real commitment. That's the real mark of transformation. Okay, let me have a sip of tea here. You know what? That's so good. I'm going to refill it. We are featuring Paris at Night by the Harney and Sons, I believe, is the brew of tea that we're crushing right now. Okay, Seth, turn on your microphone and your video phone, and I'm going to add you to the stage. How do I do this? Add to stage. I've added you. You are added.
All right.
Greetings.
Hello.
Look at this background, everyone. Look how successful Seth is.
Yep.
Oh, amazing. What would we really see if you didn't have this grand piano?
This is like our storage room / second bedroom. So my office is in here, but it's a mess behind me. So
Can I
I
see
keep
it?
my
Will you
background.
show us?
Not on this call.
Okay. You got to clean up the dirty magazines and stuff you've got behind you.
Yeah.
All of the, I'm imagining like a bunch of pictures with like red tape, like a Beautiful Mind scenario or something like that. I've got the grand unified theory for why the world isn't working.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Okay,
Some
so
psycho
Seth, how
stuff.
did we first connect? Was it like, did you just find me through? Were you going through accomplishment coaching at the time?
No, I was my first year of coaching was very much like go to all the biggest coaches that I could find to see what everyone was saying, like
Yeah.
drink through the fire hose.
What year was this?
This was 3 years ago.
2022.
22,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I had, to give a little bit of context, just because
Yeah.
it sort of explains, I had been in finance for about maybe like 4 or 5 years after college, just kind of going through the motions, not really connecting with it, and burning out by the time I hit like the early like 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
Um, the company I was at had noticed that I wasn't really performing anymore, and they were also on the back end of like when we started COVID, everyone sort of went home, and it was everything was okay. It was like we're going to get through this together. Let's go figure it out.
Yeah.
Then came the time where it was like, okay, now we have to like get all this together so we can make our way out of COVID and succeed as a company.
Yes.
Um, and so that mixed with my poor performance made it an easy decision, I think, to let me go at that point.
Got it.
Um, that was a dark time for me. I had never failed. That's how I was holding it.
Yeah.
In a way like that before, and so I was really spinning. But it was nice because it finally kicked my butt out of that field I didn't belong in, and opened the
Mm.
door to possibility for me.
Had you felt like an inclination out, like in other directions? Like, what did this exist for you, or was it just like this undistinguished kind of like I'm not happy, or what was the flavor of how this existed for you?
Yeah, so I'd always known that I loved psychology.
Uh-huh.
Back in college, I was considering going in that direction, and everyone was like, "You need to get a science degree. You can't make money with that."
Right.
Um,
It's a
and
great way to set up a life of misery. That
yeah,
statement. Yeah.
and initially, I was holding it like I held that with a lot of resentment because it's like, man, I could have gone that way. However, if I had gone into the world of psychology, I may not have landed in this style of coaching. So it's kind of
Right.
like, I guess the full expression of it was okay in the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it did take me on a journey for a while. I was a geology major actually at first, and then I went into finance, just kind of
Rocks.
bouncing around.
Were
Yeah.
you thinking like oil and stuff like that when you thought geology, or what brought you there?
I didn't really care about careers at that was about the option for the career unless you wanted to get really specific and
Yeah.
go study. I always like getting to the source of things, like why things work, where they come from, and so that branch of science called to me.
Hmm.
Super interesting stuff. It just didn't turn into something I wanted to do as a career.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So that's how you started into finance. And then while you're in finance, what's the internal state?
Yeah, the internal state is since I'm here, I should be able to do this really well. Like this, like I need to be doing this the best. And I also hate this, and I'm kind of like using my brilliance to to do as little work as possible and to basically like check myself out so I could
Uh-huh.
be doing like I was having this battle and I couldn't really see it that well.
Yeah.
I think I always knew like I would rather be somewhere else, but I didn't know where that was, and so I just felt really trapped there.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Okay, so the company, on advice from Spirit, is like, all right, you're fired. Let's make this guy do something that he enjoys,
Mm.
or something along those lines. So then what happens?
Yeah, so they gave me a really nice severance package, which was very generous of them. It gave me some time to kind of figure some things out.
Yeah.
I remember the first thing I did is I went on a family trip to the beach after I got laid off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I didn't tell anyone because I was so embarrassed of it. Like,
Like your family presumably knew, but none of your
yeah,
friends. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I didn't want that. I also didn't want that in the space. Like, I didn't want my shame in the space of the fun vacation.
Yeah.
So I remember that very distinctly.
So you're feeling
Um,
ashamed while kind of having fun on top
yeah,
a
like
little bit.
trying to have fun, but the shame
Yeah.
was still there. It was just like it was tumultuous. I definitely wasn't settled. I didn't know how to express my emotions at that point, so
Sure.
I was trying to turn them into whatever I could. Um, I came out of that and I can't remember super well, but I basically just sat at my house, I think. Like I would play video games. I kind of was just like I don't really know what to do from here. Um, I went on Indeed a few times, maybe like a few weeks after the layoff, um, but I could feel in my heart as I was looking at other finance jobs because that's what my experience was in,
Sure.
and my
Yeah.
heart was just like there was this strong no coming from somewhere deep inside as I looked at those positions. It was like you already know how that goes. Like don't go back there,
Yes.
please.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
While the sort of, but it's sort of like the proverbial drunk looking for their keys under the light, because that's where there's light.
yeah,
Like, I know not this, but this is actually what I'm trained for, or no, or yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's like how can I write a resume that has any credence without my background? Plus, like the company that let me go, the deal was something like we won't say anything about what happened here. You can kind of state that however you want, which was generous of them, but it was sort of like I was like, well, I'm not really going to get recommendations coming from there probably.
Right.
And that was the past 4 years of my career. So
Okay.
that's not a good start for whatever else I want to move into.
Yeah. So then how do you
Um,
end up here?
yeah. So to fast forward a little bit, it was like my idea became let's try to become a therapist. Like I love people, I love
Yeah.
psychology, I love helping people. My whole life actually, I'd really like that was just kind of who I was is I'd listen to people and just
Yes.
help them with whatever was going on. Um, so initially, what I did was I called every therapy office in the Greenville area. Greenville, South Carolina is where I live. I've lived for the past 9 years, and I was here as that was going down. Um,
Humble
I
brag.
call, I called, yeah, I called every office trying to get an office position because I was like, if
Wow.
I have the credentials to like hold an office position, and if I can get myself around therapists, that might give me a pretty good start on like where to go in this field.
Cool.
Um, After a couple of months, I managed to land that position at a place here. They're called Canterbury Counseling Center, just to shout them out because I'm very grateful for the opportunity that they've given me, kind of over the whole start of my coaching career. But so I got into the office there, and I met a coach, the first coach I'd ever like had a conversation with, really in person. Um, and I was like, oh, this is really cool stuff that you're talking about. I don't even remember exactly what we talked about, but basically the takeaway for me was this is the stuff I think about all the time. I
Yes.
didn't really realize that this was a
You
career I could go
can get paid
into.
for doing this?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that opened the door for me. And so from there and that platform, that was kind of when I got into like, I'm going to go listen to all the best coaches in the world because I want to figure out who is the best, who do I resonate with the most. that's not the terminology I was using then. It was who was
Of
the
course. Yeah.
best, so I could
Yeah.
become the best, and then
Yes. And
bring
then
that to my
trounce them
clients. Yeah, and then crush everyone
and
else.
stomp on their corpse.
Yeah, yeah. So that led me to Tony Robbins. Was probably the main one. Him
Yeah.
and Rich Litvin were two really big names that I'd landed on initially.
Yeah. Both very
Um,
magnetic personalities.
yeah. Their magnetism definitely called to me. I was like, oh, if I can be like that, I can make this thing work.
Yeah.
Um, so I worked more with Tony over the first year, but how I found you was I was doing a program that Rich had. You could buy this program. I don't remember if it was creating clients or something related to that. Maybe just like an intro to coaching program.
Yeah.
Um, and I was watching through the videos, and then all of a sudden you were there on one of them. A much younger Adam, not a
Yeah.
shot at you, but you were
Not the
like maybe
bearded.
my age or something
Yeah.
like that. Um, and I was struck by you were just being your brilliant self, and I was like, oh my god, that guy. Um, I don't know what he's doing, but like he understands stuff in a way that I don't yet. And it
Mm.
seems to be different from the rest of what I've been experiencing in this world. Because this was at the end of my first year when I'd sort of like seen a lot of what the like being the big coach looked like that sort of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and so what you were doing was very different, and that was right at a point where I was ready for a change because I was kind of burnt out from the other stuff I'd been working on, and
Had
I
you done
wasn't
training
even.
with Tony Robbins?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
worked with
Okay.
him for about 8 months, and he's a very brilliant man. I don't want to take anything away from him, but sort of what I found by the end of that training was I was doing what I already knew how to do at a very high level. Like I was
Uh-huh.
taking lots of action and really just like going for it, but it was kind of giving me the same thing, and I was burning out a little bit on the work.
Yeah.
So from that place was when I found you. I was like, there's got to be something else here. I saw you speak. I don't remember how I got your information, but somehow I got your phone number or email or something and set up a phone conversation with you. Because I was like, well, he'll know something to do, I think.
I get a lot of those. He'll know something to do, and the cool thing is, you and I get to stay in relationship because a lot of people are like, the the way the phone calls occur sometimes is sort of like, tell me the 3 tips I need to follow to get where you are, Adam, because you're just 3 tips away from me, right, Adam? That's the extent of the work you've done. And no shade, I've been there myself. And then the thing that I find often kind of saddening is that part of my job is to tell people the truth about this work rather than what they want to hear, and then they get that and they're like, and then they go find someone that'll reflect more what they want to hear about it.
Mm.
It doesn't sound like that was how it went for you and I, though.
Yeah. Our initial conversation, I was looking for a program, and so you mentioned accomplishment coaching to
That's
me.
right. I put you away from me.
Yes, yeah, you were like, there's accomplishment coaching, which is where I got my start, and then I also run a program, and you were very gracious, and you gave me a bunch of other people to talk to that had been in a similar place, so I could kind of get the full experience of um, just a lot of perspectives, I guess, like a lot of different perspectives, so that way it wasn't just yours. And that really struck me. Like that was a powerful thing that you did with that. So, like I know you didn't do it in order to strike me in that way. Like it came from a pure place. Um, but to me, I really appreciated that because it was like you weren't trying to corral me anywhere. It was very
Mm.
much about like here's like to the best of my experience, this is kind of what I can share, and then I'm going to trust that you can make your decision from there. So standing for my leadership, I guess was what you were doing. I didn't really even see that at that point. um I felt at that point, I'd only really done pure coaching training over like a single weekend thing that I did, and so I
Right.
chose accomplishment coaching because I was like, this seems like a really good place to get my coaching chops, get all that figured out, and also move into this ontological work, which you'd shared a little bit about.
Yeah.
Um, But I kind of knew, I think I knew the whole time as I was going through accomplishment coaching that eventually I wanted to come back and work with you. Um, a mixture of the way that you'd showed up so far, and also you're very similar to me in some ways. And so a lot of times when you share, I'm like, oh, yep, there it is. So there's a natural, like, if I follow what Adam's doing, I'm going to pick up some good things for myself too.
Cool. Okay, cool. So my friend Morton saying that where you are looks like the same place Kurt Metzger was recording a show for YT Control Alt History. This background must be some famous. It looks beautiful, anyhow.
It was the standard one for this studio. There was like a brick wall in this, so I chose this.
Frankly, Kurt Metzger probably just recorded that all in front of a big stupid background anyhow. So whatever. And hi Marta. Hey SJ saying she Polo and Pan, the music group that I shared earlier, has been a part of most of their days for the last 2 years. Cool. So anyhow, so you join accomplishment coaching, which both you and I hold like their work is really quite profound. It does a lot of good, really promotes and supports transformation. So not so much about their process or anything. That's less interesting. What had to unfold, or what was like, tell us some of what you started to maybe come into a confrontation of within yourself as you were going through.
Yeah, so I remember you always talk about in a lot of your shares that first moment where they sort of like reflect yourself to you.
Yeah.
And that was also very, very powerful for me. My version was something like I had myself carefully wrapped up in a way where nothing would get out that would cause any type of threat to people. So I was very like closed down and muted. Um, and it came from a place. Well, let me speak to it. I guess as I was distinguishing throughout that year that my love for people had caused me to kind of mute some of my qualities that would potentially threaten my connection with people.
So kind of like dim a part of who you are so that you don't upset or ruin the possibility of being in connection with them. Do I have that right?
Yes. Yeah, that's totally it. I have this memory of this has always come along with me of back in third grade, the teacher would let me go and play on the computer for like a full 45 minutes while the
Oh
rest of the
yeah.
class had to study because I was getting 100s on everything.
Oh, amazing. What did you get to
And
play?
this was back in the day. We were playing this Tarzan video game. There was this little Toy Story adventure thing.
Sweet.
Um, just these fun little games that they had on there.
Okay.
And I was proud of that, like my success kind of bringing me that acknowledgement.
Yeah.
But what I started to notice was like the othering that would happen when it was like I'm not really playing the same game as these other people, which wasn't always the case. It's not like I was that far ahead, but like when it was being treated like that or when it showed up that way, that was kind of the way it occurred to me.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really scary. It's like I do deeply love people and connection is a very important part of my being. And so that got really scary when it was like um I'm different somehow, or maybe my arrogance would kick in and I would kind of other myself. And so through that and in a few other ways, I sort of learned to like tack all of that down, like my power, my brilliance. And it was like that stuff can come out when there are rules around it and it's okay. And we're not
Right.
threatening my relationship with other people. Yeah,
Sort
was
of
the
like
gist.
here you can be like, there's prescribed and proscribed ways of showing up, show up these along these lines. You're allowed to be super smart here, you know. Yeah. Sort of like we create a sort of circumstance around us that makes it okay to be fully expressed, or
Yeah.
expressed at least in some regard. Okay, got it. Okay, so they're revealing this to you, putting this in front of you, and what's your internal experience as they're sharing? Are you like, yeah, cool, glad I knew that, or like, how are you feeling as this is happening?
Hmm. There was like multiple feelings. It was kind of confusing. It was some part of me was like they're seeing this power and this brilliance that I've had tucked away all the time, and I love that. but there's also loads of shame and fear and things for kind of the way I've handled all this and where I've ended up. And and it wasn't clear to me that there was going to be a way to like let it out, I think.
Mm.
Some part of me always kind of believed, I don't, I've had throughout all this work, maybe it's because I think maybe because I was able to see you as an example of, and this isn't meant to like stoke you here. It's
No,
like
stoke me. Feel
I
free.
could I could see that you had been doing different versions, but like kind of similar to some of the stuff I was doing, and then that there
Hmm.
was something else. Um, and some of the people that in accomplishment coaching really are strong in their being, and
Yes.
so experiencing that was like, man, there is something I think outside of what I have here.
Mm.
And so there was a little bit of excitement in there. Like I was like, even though I feel a lot of shame and stuff like that, I'm really curious to see what I can pull out of this.
Ah, cool. Yeah, so there was some, it sounds like some shame as this was being kind of distinguished in the moment, but then also some excitement about the possibility that was available.
Yeah, the
That
excitement probably came later. That was less happening as the reflecting was happening. But yeah.
yeah, I love that, just that description of it, because it's such a beautiful example of what we have to face. Like the transformation and getting present to what's possible always comes with that secondary dose or primary, like whichever order it happens, of and you suck, or like the shame or the judgment that is the reason we have that part of ourselves stuffed in a box in the first place, and so on and so forth. And it makes so much sense. It's such a delicate thing we're working with, because if we stop wanting for that thing on the other side of that threshold, then we won't have to feel that shame.
Mm.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's like playing a game not to lose, as opposed to playing a game so that we can win it. Cool. Okay, so you're like, all right, I got some, feeling kind of good. And then, like, anything more to share about your journey as you're unfolding into this?
Yeah, let me check in for a second.
Well, who's this guy? Checking in, giving himself spaciousness. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a good testament right there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think what happened was, like if I'm pretty honest about how that first year went, um, the transformation, my transformation, and like transformation in general, um, sort of became like a must, I think. And that's not to put a dampener on the work that I did, because it was still powerful. But there was a lot of like, I need this at all costs, and so I'm just gonna keep diving in,
Hmm.
no matter what, no matter what. Um,
I have a
maybe,
question about that.
yeah, yeah, shoot.
So, um, some people that are, how would I put it, like sensitive to like cults, or oh, my camera's doing the stupid thing that my camera does. Let's just do this. We visit a different camera and then we come back and it's like, no, 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 come back, hang out with me, Adam. I'll keep you in lovely focus. Thanks, camera. Thanks for sorting yourself out. Also, before I go too far down this path, SJ, our friend SJ in Facebook, saying, yes, also, I was put in the private room for the class for the same reasons. Early 80s. SJ, did you get to play Oregon Trail? That's what I got to play, early 80s. That was what's up. Anyhow, so some people, this idea of like, I need to do this. Was that tempered with anything? Like, was it being put upon you as though like, look, Seth, you have to do this? Or did you feel like you were at choice in the matter? Like, can you speak to that a little bit?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult for me to distinguish completely, because I think it's sort of shifted as I've gone.
Uh-huh.
Um, let's see. So a system that I had created kind of before coaching and transformation was, when I decide I want something or something is serious, then there's nothing less than perfection or excellence that needs to come out of this. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I would operate, is like, once I sink my teeth into something, this is going to go really well or not at all. Um, and how I protected myself a lot of my life was making everything relative and not going for very much, because I was kind of
Mm.
scared of that thing that would my perfection that would click in, and
Kind of like your
how.
intensity.
Yeah, intensity is a really good word. There was like an unforgiving intensity that would come.
Yes.
And so for a lot of my life, I was trying to avoid that by making things not important. And there was this balance happening as I entered coaching where it was like, man, I really love this. I can see a lot in this for myself. I resonate with this. I think like I can find my purpose here. And then as that's happening simultaneously, then the intensity and the excellence and the purpose is starting to click in, because this matters now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was sort of the dance for me, is like there was a positive piece of it where it was like, I love this stuff and I really want to create this. But then on top of it came the other thing where it was like, if you are going to say that this is your thing and like go around and tell people you're a coach, you need to be the best at it, or at least pretty close, to that.
So it sounds like that sort of need was from this part of yourself you're distinguishing, this intense, like all in, for better and for worse. Like I would imagine that means that you don't, once you find something, you don't halfway do it. But that there'd be other times where it's like, oh, maybe that's actually not serving me.
Yeah, it was like most of the time I would just I
You
was
keep
very much
talking,
on the
Seth. I'm just
side
going to
of.
close my door here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was very much most of my life was escaping. And so it felt, because I'd been escaping the whole time, it felt weird to kind of like choose something. It was like, oh, here finally now, we're gonna like go for this thing, and it's gonna be my career, so it's a big deal, and like it's not like this shallow thing. Like I'm gonna have to go for this really hard. Um, so yeah, I love the way you said it is totally true. It served me in some ways. It helped me kind of push myself.
Yeah.
And then it was also like not forgiving, and kind of tailored my experience in a certain way, kind of like
Yeah.
a crucible, maybe something like that.
I'm really interested in the like, it feels to me like just a razor thin line between coaching and then like culting and all of this like bad stuff. And one of the things I hear people bring forward a lot just in their internal conversations is like, I need to do this, or I need to develop myself, or like I need to cause transformation. I'll have clients come on board and they're like, we start to look at the pattern that's playing out in their life, and I'll be like, so do you want to change this? And they'll say, Adam, I have to. And the thing I'm really committed to doing is destroying this idea that we have to change, because we don't. We will do just perfect along the lines that we've been operating. Like we will adapt, we will do just fine inside of our existing like patterns and all that. It's not necessarily what we want, but we don't need to change. And there's like a safety in the idea that I need to change, because then I won't have to actually be the one to choose it for me. It'll be like forced upon me. So, okay, cool. So you're going through this year, and then like, how do you end up in the forge? Like transition us there.
Yeah, sure. So by the end of my year in accomplishment coaching, I was feeling pretty good about my coaching. Like I understood how it worked, according to the ICF format,
International
um,
Coach Federation,
International Coach
super secret
Federation.
spy coaching federation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our probably the largest governing body for
Yes,
anyone
indeed.
out there who's curious.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I felt good about my coaching. I was seeing a lot more with my transformation. The entire year that I had been in accomplishment coaching, I was pretty voraciously studying your material to kind of bring in alongside all the stuff I was learning there.
Mm.
So that was like reading your book, listening to every single one of your podcast episodes, just kind of like I was really trying to download all this stuff as my first step. Like, I'll create my own version of what this looks like after I really get a solid understanding of how all this is working.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, having done that the whole time, and kind of remembering back to my experience with you, I always sort of knew I wanted to go back to the Forge. I think um, there's a leadership track in accomplishment coaching that I was considering, but I ended up choosing the Forge, just because I felt like I want, I mean, if you boil it all the way down to choice, it was just what I wanted to choose. I wanted to come try it out and just work with you
Uh-huh.
in the forge was kind of what it came down to.
So what did you get or learn or uncover internally through that year with us?
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. I just went back and I was reading some of the stuff that I wrote in the early fall.
Such a great
In
practice.
yeah, in our we in the forge we have a space where you kind of share what's up for you. You ask questions, you get supported in there. It's kind of the space where everything happens when you're not in the actual sessions where you're working. Um, and so yeah, I was going back and reading that stuff, and I really noticed a lot of like trying to get everything right. That probably has
Hmm.
been the biggest thing that I've unfolded this year. To share for just anyone listening that's curious, um, the thing that became obvious to me this year in the forge, well, obvious is even the wrong word. I can see it now. It still hides in places and comes to get me
Right.
where I haven't experienced it yet. But there's this thing I do called the machine. I call it the machine, um, which is whenever I'm operating in a place where I'm trying to make things happen or I'm declaring something in the world, taking action, anytime I'm tangibly impacting the world or expressing myself in the world, I run this thing I call the machine, which is um, there's a right and or best way for everything to go, and I do a lot of mental work to figure out what that is, and then I do a lot of work to remove everything that's in the way of me arriving at what is right or what's the best. That's kind of how the machine looks.
It's like the
um,
perfect robot to get from point A to point B.
yes,
Yeah,
it's very effective in some ways,
I bet.
because I can it allows me to see very quickly what's going on when I enter a group or a company. I can kind of I'm very good at picking everything apart. Um, but what I learned this year is where that thing falls down and what's available outside of it, because um, it's a very cold place to live in that machine.
Mm.
Part of the reason that I mentioned before I was avoiding action for a lot of my life, a lot of that was related to this machine. It was kind of like when I'm moving, it's very much like I'm beating the hell out of myself, just whipping myself with everything I'm doing wrong. And then anything anybody else is doing wrong, I'm judging the hell out of them, being really arrogant and just kind of mowing down everything that's in the process in order to get to the thing that I see at the end that is that I've decided somehow is the best.
That does sound like fun.
Yeah, it's a real blast.
This is a like a left turn question, but something I'm super curious about. Do you enjoy walking through crowds of people?
No.
Interesting. See, like, because I have a part like an optimization bot, that's there for
Mm.
me, and I love walking through crowds of people because I'm really like it is perfect fodder for that part of me that is the machine. It's like that person's coming in at
Uh,
this vector, they're moving there. I'm gonna have to get around that person. So I love doing that, and I hate walking in crowds of people with other people because they are not online with my machine, and they are complete. Like walking with my amazing moonbeam wife is just the worst. She's walking me into trucks. She's like so in the moment. I'm like, oh my God, I just have to surrender all of it. So that's funny. Is there a sort of like mundane place where you do see that machine show up?
the thing you shared actually does resonate.
Uh-huh.
I do optimize like that. Um, I think when I escape the machine, it's kind of like I don't even want to use it, and so that's why
Uh-huh.
my first answer was no. Is like I'd rather not be in the crowd at all than have to
Uh-huh.
use this thing um, that makes my life not very fun.
Yeah, well, it's cool because I can hear. So it sounds like part of what you're learning to do these days is to kind of re-embrace that machine, but from a place where it has a place, as opposed to being always like the automaticity is where we run into problem with this stuff, as opposed to it being always good or always bad or anything along those lines.
Yeah, that's really been the case. Because, like you said, optimizing can be really fun.
Yeah.
And the either or well, I don't know if I should throw that language in there, but me holding it as like it had to be one or the other was a big part of the problem because I was forever stuck between the two ends, and neither of them really worked. The avoiding
Uh-huh.
or the buying into it.
So this stuff sounds cool in theory. Like how has the Forge, like how's that structure supported you to actually like work with this or bring it to the
Mm.
forefront or any of that?
Yeah, so when I look back into the fall, there my feeling as I sort of entered the Forge is, oh, here's a lot of people that are very committed to this type of work, and I can see that they all have a pretty good capacity to hold space for whatever shows up. Like it's not perfect or anything, but I felt like it was a safe container for me to start to dive into some of this stuff that I didn't want to approach because of the shame and other things that I had that were sort of tied into the patterns I was using or the ways I was showing up.
Yeah.
Um, and so I felt pretty comfortable to just start diving in. And um, there's nothing quite like sharing your deepest, darkest fears in front of a group of people to not allow you to go and hide back inside that because
Right.
it's out there and everyone sees it. Um, and in the fall, that was the thing that really stood out to me was it was just allowing me to get all this stuff out into the world so it wasn't hidden anymore, so I could work
Mm.
with it and see it and have other people reflect pieces of it to me. That was like my first piece of it, I would say. That was really helpful.
What have you found uncomfortable in our container,
Mm.
our work, you know?
Yeah, the occasional times where I get found out where I was missing something. to
Yes.
to me it's like you're an idiot, like, or I need to know the answer already, which is silly because the whole point of this work is not knowing the answer already, but I was trying my
Right.
hardest to do it anyways.
Yeah, I mean intellectually we can kind of put those words together and know that truth, but to be with it in the moment is quite something different, isn't it?
Totally, yeah, like anger would come up, fear, frustration. um, One of my things is if I get caught like that, I attack and undermine the other person or thing to like invalidate them so that I am safe in
Mm-hmm.
mine,
You're
in
right.
whatever I said.
They're
Yeah.
wrong, so yeah.
And so me like me like spinning on how to do that where a whole group of people would see me then put that out into the space had me like checking myself a little bit because it's like I know they can see that I'm doing this, and so if I do, I still did it anyways
Yeah.
sometimes, but it was a good way to kind of play with that line, of that defense mechanism that was so natural to me.
It's such a measure of the transformational journey, isn't it? Where we're like intellectually we kind of know the thing we're probably gonna do, and so then we try to not do the thing we're gonna do. I know I'm gonna steer the wrong way on the bike, and that's gonna have me go over the handlebars. So I'm gonna try not to steer the wrong way. And it's like the only what really sets us free is like it's gonna happen, and I'm not gonna be able to do anything about it, and I'm just gonna allow that to. I'm gonna go towards the thing I want, for which this happening is a necessary step along the way.
Mm.
Uh huh.
Yeah, I love that piece. I think that was what happened to me eventually as I started embracing some of the like, if I am afraid of it, there's probably something big for me over here. And so it was like I could take some of it on through my vision of what I wanted to create. Like that purpose that purpose that I saw through transformation and being able to bring that to people helped me navigate some of that. That became clear probably more towards the middle of the forge after I'd fallen down a few times.
What were you like? So as that's becoming clear, what was the thing you were fixating on prior to that? Do you know what I mean?
Um, the thing that I was fixated on was being right and transformation was right.
Mm.
Um, something like that maybe.
Sort of
It's
like
a
in
little.
conversations with your prospects or your clients or people.
Um, Let me think about this for a second. Yeah, I think there was like there was a bit of like you would speak about this process, and so I sort of had some of it intellectually through you and a few books I'd read. And so I was taking that on to try to get that part of it right. It was like I know this is what I'm supposed to do.
Mm, got it. I'm doing everything right. Why isn't it, you know, working or happening or whatever?
Yeah.
Cool. What are like we talk about in this work, we have to have a breakdown preceding a breakthrough. So are you able to grab a hold of like any breakthroughs or any real shifts that have happened for you this year? And then I'm going to ask you about the breakdowns that led to those, but like anything like that that you're present to in this moment. And it's okay if not.
No, yeah, in Costa Rica, so for any listeners, we in the Forge we go to Costa Rica for 6 days in January, kind of as the midpoint of the program. I think both to take an awesome trip and for some really powerful work that happens down there in person, because you're kind of like in the rainforest and just doing deep work with everyone. Um, that trip had a profound impact on me because that was the first time I was able to really see the machine that I was just mentioning.
Mm,
um, I was able to like step outside of it and look at it for the very first time. Um, and that's not to say like I saw it everywhere, because even since then I've seen it in many more places, but I could see for the first time that there was this thing that I was doing that was kind of running everything that I ever took on. Like this same pattern would kind of click into place.
mm.
Um, the breakthrough for that from that, not to focus on what's wrong, which is what the machine is about, but the breakthrough from that has been access to experiences of life that weren't available within that thing, which within the machine,
Like
which
what?
are words like magic,
Mm,
joy, fun, possibility, curiosity. Um, all
mm,
of those things were not really available to me when I was running things the old way. And so when I would go to try to create stuff, um, I couldn't pivot into magic, or I couldn't get curious with people to create, or if I couldn't, if it wasn't that I couldn't, it was that it was really difficult
uh-huh.
because I already knew the right way, and so the blinders would go on, and all the possibilities of life that, or all the possibilities that life could throw at me that I wasn't expecting, I didn't really have a way to access. And
Mm.
so me being able to step into that has been so freeing. There's
Can
just
I ask you a
like,
question about just before
yeah,
we get into what so
sure.
what because I imagine like you said you're still learning to see this contraption, this machine more and more, but prior to being able to see it, what was your experience underneath it? So I'll give you a quick example. Like I have this tendency to pull down the possibility of what could be because I don't have to experience my heartbreak when it doesn't come to be. So if I reduce my desire, I don't have to feel as much heartbreak. And I can distinguish that now. But in my life, what was going on was I was just sort of experiencing life like kind of meh, is this it? That was kind of the experience I had. What was your experience from this machine undistinguished?
Yeah, so the running away that I was doing had left me feeling that meh. Because it's
Mm,
like I can't really commit to anything that I actually want or see,
mm.
because I refuse to play the game of the machine. So I'm just gonna do nothing with my life was kind of, and that's not totally fair, but like n-
Uh-huh.
nothing as in like, um, I wasn't able to chase things that were really important to me. I had to leave life as kind of meh because it was safer that way.
Yeah, it's a little nihilistic almost.
Yes, totally. I
Uh-huh.
was I was pretty nihilistic at, especially maybe like coming out of college or somewhere in there.
Uh-huh.
Um, I've yeah, I've run into that quite a few times because I didn't really believe you could create. I thought it was all just one big trap that you were stuck in. And I was
Right.
like, well, I'm not going to play this game, so I'm just going to sit over here, and everyone who's trying at things, they're all falling for the trap that I see. I was very like, um feeling good on my little throne of whatever that I'd built
Feeling
with
good
that.
about being right that it can't feel good.
Yeah, totally.
Like, this all sucks, but at least I'm right about the fact that it all sucks. So stop having fun over there, you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you create you were starting to talk about creating this shift and like the impact that's had in your life.
Mm, yeah. So as I've started to practice, which you kind of led up to this nicely earlier, but a big part of the forge and like ontological work as it's done in here and in similar spaces is you go take the stuff on to actually like shift it for you for real. And so that's been tricky for me because I get really frustrated when I'm constantly getting it wrong and falling back into the machine. I use that with quotes because it's obviously part of the thing. But um, as I've started to experience other things, it's like my days have become much lighter, much more
Uh-huh.
free. I'm worrying about much less. I'm able to step into action a lot more easily. It's kind of like when going out and talking to people about possibility to create clients is fun, then it's so much nicer than you're failing at creating your practice. You need to get out there and make this
Yes.
happen, which was how it had been going.
Tell me about how you want your life to be better and hurry up.
Yeah, yeah, you're doing it wrong. You could be doing it so much better. I have the answer. Why aren't you coming to talk to
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Um, Reiko and Alex and a few people, members of the Forge with us, reflected to me that when I would try to enroll people in doing things, it felt like I was calling them into this draft. It's like Seth's draft,
Like a
where
military draft.
a military draft.
That's so
You
great.
could join it, but it's not going to be fun, and it's probably going to be super intense and
Yeah.
maybe like a war. Um, so my
That's a great
previous
reflection.
experience was fighting that war, and now I'm not fighting the war anymore. I'm having fun and creating stuff with people, which that is just incredible for my soul.
Uh-huh. I think I remember you sharing a moment where you, like, of course, this stuff is analog in the sense that it's one big curve, but then there's also like I find moments of like punctuation where it's sort of like, oh, there's a shift. Oh, there's a small shift there. And I think I remember you sharing a point where like just the act of going and connecting with clients started to become fun for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, that's been a multi-layered and a multi-step process because I keep finding new ways to make people wrong, which is super frustrating. But
I'm good at that too.
but the
Uh,
yeah, let me see if I can find a specific example because that might be interesting for anyone who's like building a business or something. Yeah, so a kind of recent one for me has been something like um, if people are trying to create an external standard to then hold themselves to as like the sense of motivation or the thing that's going to like get them there. Um, there are some ways that can fall down. Like it's not. I'm not going to make it right wrong here, but how I was doing is I was making it very wrong, and so
mhm.
anyone that would come and talk to me from that place where it's like, um, we want to make sure this goes the right way. I'm like, no, my right way is better,
Yes.
and then that would totally foul up any possibility that could be created or a conversation or any of the fun that was to be had. Whereas when it's all okay, I can have a lot of fun with them and explore possibility and share my experience of what's worked for me and just see what we can create together.
Yes.
That's like the newer taste of it I've been getting as I move that out of the way.
I remember there's a moment fairly recently where you were sharing about someone saying they wanted like to work on mindset work. Are you comfortable sharing about that?
Yeah, that was kind of what I was speaking to. It's like
Yeah.
I'll click that into this to
Yeah,
make it
great.
clear because this is me kind of just sometimes I jump around too quickly, so
Yeah,
pull me
it's
back if I'm
bad.
not clear. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you should
bad and
figure
I'm
yourself
wrong.
out. You should solve that too.
Yeah. Please don't trigger it any more than it needs. um, yeah, so the way I was holding mindsets is that a mindset was an external thing that you would create to then adhere to.
Mm,
Um, So if someone wanted a growth mindset, um, I was looking at it not as if they wanted to create growth in their company or whatever it was, which is an awesome thing. Like growth is a part of being human in existence. Um, but the growth mindset to me was like, oh, here's an external thing for people to adhere to, and anyone else who's not like aligned with that thing is then going to be like running towards this thing that will never fulfill them because it's not
Right.
attached to their essence and who they are, that sort of thing. um, and so I was making any sort of mindset stuff like completely wrong, and to the point where I was struggling. I would disconnect from people who were sharing about that type of thing. I was so busy trying to figure out how I was right and they were wrong, and like to
Yes.
reconcile that for myself.
Yeah, it was so great because you're part of our summer structure that we're running right now. And I love this is I'm going to share and interrupt
Yeah,
me
you
if
can
you want
share.
to put in, but like I just love this because it exemplifies all the parts of what you've been sharing. You sort of brought forward like, oh, this person reached out to me for this group that I'm a part of to say like, hey, we really like to like, maybe do some work on creating a growth mindset. And you were like, oh, fuck, like screw growth mindset. And what do I do? And I was just inviting you to look at it through the lens of like, well, what if they just came to you and all they were really asking for was your support? And it took you a few swings. I remember at first you're like, well, you answered in this very like intelligent, but here's why they're still wrong way. And I think the exact wording I said was, oh, well, let me put the dots a little closer together for you. And I laid it out a little bit more. And you from there, a couple of things I remember happening. One was the Cinderella part of the story, I guess, is that you could start to see like, oh, there's an opportunity just to like, this doesn't have to be about the right way and the wrong way. Like I could just support these people, which is what you're committed to doing anyhow.
Yeah.
But underneath that sort of nice kind of cool sounding ending was that you were getting quite triggered by what I was sharing.
Yes.
Is that a valid way to put it?
It totally is. If I'm super honest, it still gets me a tiny bit because
Mm.
having someone bring the dots together for me in the way that I hold that was like not allowed for me, and especially that happening in like a public place was like that was getting at the very foundation of um, what I didn't allow to keep myself safe. So yeah,
What
that
did
was
it mean
a
about you that those dots had to be brought closer together?
it was like I was too slow and I'm not going to be able to make it, or like
Mm.
I'm too far behind. Um, which once again is like literally the point of this work. But that being said, yeah, it's still like that's one I'll have to continue to take on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that the Forge has really given me the beautiful space to accomplish is um, there's no forcing that thing, so I can do it on my own terms, but
Yeah.
it's very much like invited. And the more work that I do, the more that I can see that all the stuff I want is on the other side of these things, and so I can bring it up in there, and process it with you guys and help me create something different.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's cool. Yeah, it's amazing like we can tell ourselves uh I know that I'm not stupid. I know that people don't think I'm dumb. I know that blah 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 blah. We can tell ourselves that ad infinitum. And we can go to a bunch of trainings where like some guy tells us that. And he tells us a story about how once he used to think he was stupid and then he realized he isn't. And now his life's radically different. And all of that falls completely away to the moment when you have to confront that feeling. And then it
Mm,
doesn't matter how much you try to tell yourself, I know I'm not stupid, because what you're confronting is feeling stupid. And then by being able to be with that and be met with love and stuff, then you can start to heal that story, as opposed to trying to figure it out intellectually, which is just sort of like a band-aid on an underlying wound.
yeah, maybe something that just comes up for me with that share you just gave is like the hardest part of this work is like when you unwind the patterns. Oh, I'll speak to it myself. As I
Please.
unwind the patterns that are keeping me safe, eventually the very thing that I was trying to avoid comes along and punches me.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's really hard to be with in the moment. Um,
Yeah.
the understanding that I have that that's part of the process helps, because it's like, okay, here's this thing that I know is going to be coming, but still, right in that moment, it's like you just have to be with that, and there's nothing really you can do about it.
Yeah. It's deeply courageous work. The only way
Hmm.
for us to walk the courageous path is to be with fear. You know, it's crazy work that we choose to do. Like
Yes.
terrible like job description. At least on one level. And then on the other level, it's like the most amazing work, you know, is absolutely like there's nothing as enriching as getting to be with people as they create these sort of breakthroughs. And then the cool thing is we get to kind of take part in those breakthroughs by virtue of being witness to their process.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Energetically, my life is profoundly different day to day right now as compared to the same. If I look a year back, um, it's just like I can't even compare the two. It's almost hard for me to see it. I'm like, I'm living in a different reality because of how I'm relating to the world differently, which
Mm-hmm.
is awesome. And
Yeah.
so that thing keeps me going because it's super addicting to it's super addicting to be able to increase your capacity and be with more of what the world throws at you, so that you can create all the stuff you want to create. And so for me, it's like, even though that fear stuff still gets me every time, I'm so addicted to what's on the other side that I'll just dive in over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. You're a masochist.
Yes.
And we all are a little bit in this line of work.
Yeah.
And like so you're still playing for results. There's still more like that you're seeking to create and stuff like that. You know, I don't think you would suggest that, and I don't want to put into the space this idea like transform who you're being and everything magically is different. But what happens is that as we're playing for those results, we have a different experience of our life, and that makes those results way more likely, more fruitful. We stop having to like wait until we achieve the result to finally feel the way that we're hoping to feel and all of that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Uh-huh. Which is a great like sort of backdoor trick for me to be like, therefore, it's not on me to help you get your results, blah blah blah. That's always kind of the line I find we're walking in this work. In my own life as well. Like I was differentiating, there's sort of this, we need to become committed to a goal that is going to call us out beyond the threshold of our fear, a goal that is sort of like that demands something of us. Then we have to, like, the secret truth is the gift that goal provides us is not the result, it's what it's going to demand of us on our journey to get that result, like the
Hmm.
shift in who we're being. And while that's happening, we kind of have to let go of the result whilst staying committed to it, which is a bit of a mind bender. Like, okay, so I'm taking the committed action, I'm doing the stuff that I need to do, and I'm simultaneously trying to release my attachment to like it has to unfold this way. And then the crazy thing is, once we do that, we get to have this experience of being you're describing, and then our result can kind of show up in that new space that we create. It's such weird work,
Yeah.
ontological work, and it makes zero sense until you kind of come through on the other side and you're like, oh my god, how could it have been any other way? And then the process
Hmm.
repeats and repeats and repeats. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very much been my experience of it. Is it's um the work plays outside of like knowing in the head and stuff like that. It's like
Yes.
you sort of just have to trust and dive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so you're declared to come back and join us next year, yeah?
Yes.
I'm not asking that from a position of putting you on the spot, but more like if people are like, man, this guy's cool and I'd like to spend more time with this guy, you're going to be in the forge, and at least that's what your intention is.
Yes, I
Yeah.
will be in. I'll
Yeah.
be on the leadership team. Yes.
Very cool. Rob Fournier. Hey, Rob, it's nice to have you with us. Just sharing, I've spent the past 20 years doing ontological work, and it blows my mind how even after that long, there is so much to discover.
Mm,
And I love that from so many different places. The one for me is there's a part of me that for the rest of my life is going to be like, but when am I done? Like, how do I best this? How do I arrive? And then I'm like, I did it. And the beauty of Rob's statement is like, never, the game can always be played further. And if I can if I can hold that in a different light, like, this isn't a game to be conquered, it's a game to just show up and play every single day of my life, that becomes like a little more compelling day by day. And then, of course, like the rest of us, we get scared and we forget, and then we have to find our way back to remembering. And yeah, cool. So what are you up to? Where do people find out about you? What are the stuff that they should follow you for?
Yeah, so I'm not creating tons of content yet. That's a goal of mine, is to step into that.
Mm-hmm.
I've
What kind of
started
content?
some LinkedIn articles, going on
Writing?
people's podcasts. Yeah, so
Yeah.
writing, podcasting. I'd like to get into video creation at some point. But for right now, if anyone wants to get in touch with me or have a conversation or anything like that, my name is very unique. I think I'm the only
Yes.
Seth Drugatz. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm very open to connecting. I love learning about people. Anyone who's in this work or wants to talk about anything in this work, I'd love to chat.
Bear with me one moment. I've got a special technique to open this door that everyone on audio can hear. Let the dog out. There we go. So, and I imagine the sort of people you're working with are kind of like similar to how you've been describing yourself, like they may be able to see some parts of themselves in your journey.
Yeah, I tend to find that a lot of people who run something similar to the machine, they tend to be interested because, yeah, it's nice to like share with someone who walks the same path, I guess.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. What did you get what was your nickname?
When I was really little, they would call me Sethy Poo because
Of
I was
course.
like a lover,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
that fits. Yeah.
Um,
Plus you
yeah,
pooed.
late on beyond that though, not really.
No,
Mostly
no junior high nickname?
I didn't really want one, and so I think people knew that and just left my name normal.
This guy's mean. I
Maybe.
I ask because like as a man with also a very unique name, I got Quiney all the time. My last name
Uh,
was automatic nicknameable, and so you didn't get Drugatz. That wasn't like
the funny
part
thing
of.
that would happen with that is I played a little bit of basketball, and
Yeah,
local gyms would have like an announcer for when you came out.
yeah. Oh,
And I
sweet.
would always wait for the new butchering of the name because there was some really crazy stuff.
What would you
People
hear?
people would pause like multiple times through it, like Drugatz. I can't even like it was like all over the
Like dragging a
place.
cat over carpet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so do you have a website?
I don't have a website, so it's mostly
Okay.
social media. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to come, like, be friends on LinkedIn, Facebook,
Yeah.
super open to that.
Very cool. Very and email. Do you want people to email you?
Yeah, sure. It's Seth, then initial F, then initials DRU. So Seth F Drew at
Uh huh.
gmail.com.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for coming and sharing the journey, and like thanks for getting to be someone I get to partner with. Like it's so fun to partner with you because um like you said, I think in this work we're always we're working with people on a similar spiritual path. And my belief is we just have to be half a step out in front. It's like we're clambering over the rocks and it's a full moon out and we can't quite see. And I'm like stumbling and I'm like, watch out for that little area over there. And then maybe once in a while you're like, hey, just a heads up. Are you watching where you're going? And it's cool to get to be on this sacred journey together. So yeah.
Mm.
Any parting wisdom or words or stuff that you want to put forward before we wind down?
Yeah, I want to acknowledge you real quick, Adam,
Hell yeah.
for being the brilliance that you are, the standard of excellence that you've taken this work. Like as I stated it way earlier in the episode, I'm really good at tearing people down. And your level of excellence is so high that I wasn't able to tear, and for the most part, I'm still not able to tear you down. So that was sort of a thing that always piqued my curiosity. Is I was like, how is he always ahead of me on this stuff? So I knew that you were super deep in your work, but thanks for like taking all that on, the courage that it takes to walk that path, and for bringing it to everybody and making it so accessible.
Mm,
Um, you've really done a lot to change my life in these past 2 years.
thank you, brother. That's very touching to hear.
Mm.
And makes me nervous. The part about like being one step out in front of you, like, oh yeah, 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 I'm gonna fall off that pedestal. Yeah. Cool. Seth, I acknowledge you. Just thank you for your generosity and the fullness of your heart and like the marriage of brilliance and love that you are, and like doing the really, really, really tough work of setting aside the brilliance so that you can fall in love with people, and then falling in love with people and letting them hurt you, leave us heartbroken, because that to love is to be willing to be heartbroken, and then like not picking up the weapon of your brilliance so as to not have to feel that. And like one of the things I've just gotten to see from you time and again is, like you in finding more joy and wit and play and just like frivolity in your life, and then your brilliance being sort of born into the world from that place, as opposed to from this sort of like bolted onto the side of life, or whatever it happens to be. So cool. I love you very much. Thank you for being on the show and sharing all this with everyone. Please reach out to Seth if his story resonates with you in any way. Just like send him a message and be like, that was dope, thanks for sharing that. I hate everyone too. Can we talk about how people suck? he he will
Let's do it.
he will without a doubt join you in that. All right, cool. We're gonna wind down there. Let me just check in if there's anything I want to plug. Oh, of course. The Forge starts in September. So we go from September through till May. I will just fix this camera for this part here. Like Seth said, it's a container in service of having you transform and shift not only the experiences or the results you want to create, but also who you're being as you're doing so. And then that's all done in service of also training you the ability to support other people to do that, whether you're a coach or a leader. We've also got the intensive showing up. You coming out here for the intensive, Seth?
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
I'm growing to love Victoria more and more.
Heck yeah, right? Good place to come.
Yeah.
So the intensive runs in September here in Victoria from the 23rd to the 26th. So that's 4 days hanging out, being in a container like this, being with people that are up to the same stuff, forming cliques where you hate on different people, whatever you want to do. It's all there. So we've got early bird pricing up until the start of September. So it's $1,500 up until September 1st. And then after that's $2,000. And if you liked this episode, you should share it. Share it with someone and tell them like, hey, your life's a complete mess. You should listen to this guy. It'll make it better. Or share it in a better way. I'm feeling a little survival mechanism-y right now. I'm getting a little shy because I'm asking people to share my work. So thank you everyone for letting me be with that. And then thanks everyone for tuning in. Big thanks to Rob. Big thanks to SJ, Morton, long time no see, brother. Martha, great to see you with us. And anyone else that's tuning in after the fact, thanks for watching. And thanks for just sourcing this kind of conversation in the world by being a part of it. Just by listening to it, you allow more transformation to go forward from here. And that's what we're all committed to. Have an amazing weekend. See y'all later. Bye-bye. Okay. And